Welcome, everyone. Let's begin our lesson for today by going over the learning goals and success criteria. First, what are we learning? We're learning how to find the side length of a triangle. How are we learning it? Through the Pythagorean Theorem notes and the Pythagorean Theorem assignment. When can we use this information? To determine the size and amount of planks needed to construct a triangular planter. How do you know you learned it? By getting a score of 4 on the Pythagorean Theorem assignment. Now let's take a look at our agenda for today. We will begin by going over the learning goals and success criteria. While we do that, you'll fill out your Get It Started. Once you've completed your Get It Started, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. After that, we'll go over the Pythagorean Theorem notes, and I'll give you time to complete the Pythagorean Theorem assignment. Once you've completed the assignment, we'll go over it together and answer any questions that you may have. At the end of class, we'll go back over our learning goals and success criteria while you fill out your Before You Go. Your only homework for tonight is to continue working on the Geometric Proof Study Guide and any incomplete assignments that you may have. Let's take a look now at the Pythagorean Theorem notes. The notes begin with the learning goals and success criteria. Other types of triangles, we have right triangles, where one of the angles is a right angle or a 90-degree angle. Acute triangles have all angles smaller than 90 degrees, and an obtuse triangle has one of the angles bigger than 90. So what does this look like? Right triangle has a 90-degree angle right here. Acute triangle, all the angles are smaller than 90. So in this case, they're all 60, but they don't have to all be the same. They just need to all be smaller than 90. And then obtuse has this big angle here that's bigger than 90, right? Because if I were to draw a right angle, it would go up like this, and it's definitely bigger than that. So that's an obtuse triangle. Now, what is a right triangle? A right triangle has a 90-degree angle, so it forms this perfect L shape here. And the sides are labeled A, B, and C. A and B are the two smaller sides. It doesn't matter which one's which. And the longest side is C, and that is the hypotenuse. So A, B, and C. This could be A, this could be B as well, but this one is always C. So what is the Pythagorean theorem? The Pythagorean theorem states that A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So the square of this side length and the square of this side length is equal to the square of this one. If we simplify it and just try to find C, that means C is equal to the square root of A squared plus B squared. So how do we find a side length? So let's say that this is 3 and this is 4, and we want to know what C is. So we're going to find the missing side length. So we have A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And so we plug in A is 3, B is 4, so we have 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to C squared. So 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. When we add those together, we get 25. So 25 is equal to C squared. Now, what is the square root of 25? Well, the square root of 25 is 5. So C is equal to 5. Let's look at another example. We have 4 and 5, and we need to find the hypotenuse. So we have A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. We plug in 4 for A and 5 for B, so we get 4 squared plus 5 squared is equal to C squared. Well, 4 squared is 16, and 5 squared is 25. Then we add these together, so 16 plus 25 is 41. So we take the square root of that, and notice now there is no perfect square root of 41, so we'll just leave it like that. So C is the square root of 41. Or we can simplify it and say that C is equal to 6.40 by rounding. Let's look at another example. This time we know the hypotenuse, but we don't know one of the legs. We call these the legs. So again, we're going to say A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. And we'll make A 2, and we don't know B, but we do know that 5 is C. So this is A squared plus 2 squared is equal to 5 squared. Well, 2 squared is 4, and 5 squared is 25. So we go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides, and we get A squared is equal to 21. We take the square root of 21, which doesn't go in evenly, so we'll go ahead and round it, so it becomes 4.58. Now there's a video here that shows you how you can check the Pythagorean theorem using Symbolab. So go ahead and watch that video now. Let's take a look now at how we can use Symbolab to check our work when dealing with the Pythagorean theorem. So we go to Symbol Lab, and we're going to go to where it says right-angled triangle, sides and angles calculator. So the first thing we need to figure out is which side are we trying to find? Are we trying to find A or B, or are we trying to find the length of C? So let's say we're trying to find the length of A. So we go here, and all it does is it asks you to put in B and C. So let's say B is 4 and C is 5. We go ahead and click Go. It shows us step by step how to do this, and it tells us that at the end, our A should be 3. So that other side length should be 3. Now let's say that we needed to find C. So we click there. Now it asks us to type in A and B. So let's say A is 3, B is 4. We go ahead and type that in and click Go. It shows us step by step how to do this and tells us that C is 5. So this is how you can use Symbol Lab to check your work when dealing with the Pythagorean Theorem. Let's take a look now at the Pythagorean Theorem assignment. The assignment begins with the learning goals and success criteria. If we scroll down, we can see the questions. It says, use the Pythagorean theorem to determine if the triangle below represents a right triangle or not a right triangle. So in order for it to be a right triangle, we need C, or our longest side, the square of that to be equal to A squared plus B squared. So let's see here. So 9 squared is 81, and then 8 squared is 64, and 6 squared is 36. So if we add 36 plus 64, we get 100, which is not 9 squared. So that is not a right triangle. Then we'll look at some of these other ones. So here we're going to find the missing side length. So we have 4 squared plus 8 squared. So 4 squared is 16, and 8 squared is 64. So if we add 64 plus 16, we get 80. And then we take the square root of 80, and we get 8.94, which is that one there. So you'll continue to answer each of these questions until you get to the end of the assignment. Once you get to the end of the assignment, go ahead and click Next. This will take you to your Before You Go. Go ahead and fill out your Before You Go, and then submit your work on Google Classroom.